What's up, everybody? We are back again for another little morning episode. Little coffee with Cody, if you will. We're gonna touch base on some deer hunting, some updates, and just say what's up.
Yeah, we are in the mobile recording studio. We have seen a good buck this morning.
Yes. Yeah, we did. So we've been getting pretty mobile. You know, we've been going the LWCG way with these podcasts. So we've been just hammering them out at random places, random locations, in vehicles, in the middle of scouting sessions. We just got done doing some glassing and seen some pretty good bucks this morning. But now we're parked at the back end of a service road, and you'd be pretty. we got the mic hanging from the roof of the Jeep. So, but yeah, it's all in good times.
Yeah, I feel like people will appreciate it. But we got a couple heavy hitters on today's podcast. But the Werewolf,
yes,
carrying a stand.
We did a post a couple weeks ago now, and it was a while ago, but for questions, for topics, just kind of looking to kind of platform and lay out some episodes and some future stuff. And the Werewolf, the walking werewolf with the Lobo and the 1.0 stand. We got a lot of questions on that, when it's coming, when it'll be available. It is on the way, I promise you that. So we actually officially have the Werewolf shirts. They just got done at the printers. Those will be up and available very shortly. And decals are on the way. And any question that we pick from this episode that we took from those submissions, and we're going to cover a few different topics, we're going to send you guys one of the Werewolf stickers, one of the originals. So look forward to that. We'll reach out and DM you and get your address, and you guys will be hooked up with some of those stickers. So it's a pretty cool design, you know.
It is cool.
I mean, one of the staff guys, Tyler Tutterow, was messing around doing some decal stuff and had this pretty cool Sasquatch, and he tossed a 1.0, and I'm like, you know what? I'm like, that thing should be a wolf. Like, let's and so he did some buzzing around, and we ended up with the walking werewolf. So it was pretty cool. But anyway, yeah, we'll jet that out and get you guys some of those, and we'll throw some stuff up on the story and on the page when they're available on the site.
I think quickly before we get into some of these questions, we posted literally Sunday evening a very good manufacturing update for those people looking at items to purchase, when you can expect those. Do you have anything else you want to add to that?
Just finally really excited to be full in production, like officially just, turning, not inspecting anything, just everything is, all the coatings are finished, the manufacturing facility, the new facility is all up and running. We got some new machines on the way to speed up production, hopefully coming into season, but everything is shipping now. All 1.0 orders that were currently in the system should be fulfilled. And, we're doing this in batch production. We are not a huge operation, so we got to produce these in batches. So we're starting with the 0.5s are next, and the sticks. And the doubles did have a sooner ship date than a couple of the other products, which I know I have seen a few personal questions from. And the only reason for that is the machining process is a lot more straightforward with the double step sticks. So it's not that we're bumping those up in front of, but there's no assembly. They're one piece construction. They don't go through the additional machining process as the standard sticks and have to be assembled. So that's why those have a little sooner of a ship time.
That's good detail there.
Yeah, so just so you guys know about that, we're not cutting in front of you if you had a standard set of sticks ordered and you have a buddy that gets their doubles in. But we're setting up our assembly facility and it's all going good. So we do urge you though, we hope to have stock coming into the season, like around October, like to actually be shipping upon receiving. But right now, it's just with the high demand of the products and
the COVID put you guys behind.
Yep, just the delays. But so if you want to stand before a season, I mean, right now we have a 4 to 5 week lead time is I think the max on all the products. Get your order in. We opened everything up, and just if you want to get that delivery date before your season comes in, just make sure to nab one up quick so you don't wait, because it'll, we might not be able to keep up with production. Hopefully we can, but
yeah. So obviously we made the post a couple weeks ago. We had some topics we wanted to discuss.
So there's a couple interesting questions, and we got a lot of inquiries on the moon, and we're gonna dive in 100% to the moon when we got the old man on, and he's, me and him have some different takes on the moon. He's a little bit more of a moon nut than myself. I definitely take it into account. And I do think that utilizing the moon and the phase will definitely help you get a little closer to success. And especially, like, a big thing Adam Hayes always preached to with his moon guide and all that is, a lot of this is catering toward people who may not have a whole lot of time to hunt. So I think that's a very important, like, when I look at moon, I look at, like, that being a very important part to capitalize on. And if you're a guy who gets to hunt every day and who's out there pounding it, like, you're going to be hunting regardless. If you're a guy who literally has to pick 5 days of vacation time and is needing to schedule those around and want to get their best crack at a deer, you are going to be, I think, better off picking one of those red moon times, or like those better phases, if you will, to catch those deer. And then it all depends too what type of property you're hunting, if you know the property really well, if you can access those bedding areas, and because on those lesser moon phases there's a little lesser action. But we will dive a lot more in depth on that with the old man, and we might even involve for a couple other people. Those
listeners who don't know who Adam Hayes is, he's killed 4 200-inch bucks. Several other giants. He's on some of the old Whitetail Addictions episodes, and he became friends with your dad, and you guys have really, I don't know, there's a lot more information to uncover there with those guys. Yep,
they go way back, and Adam, I think, recently purchased the Moon Guide company just a few years back, but him, Dad, a lot of other successful hunters all utilize the moon for another piece of information for sure. And so for you guys this was kind of a tease for you guys, we'll get into that.
We even threw out the idea of getting on the phone with Adam. As a possibility. So
So that's coming, and we'll really dive into that and get a little more deep on that. But so with that being said, a couple other interesting questions that stood out, I think. Was definitely, let's see here. Here's a quick one. Favorite venison meal. Kind of an off base topic, but dude, I gotta go tacos all the way. I'm a fucking taco man.
Steak, barbacoa. What are you talking about here? I need Anna's best recipe.
We toss. I like to toss. Venison roast in the slow cooker with some like green chilies and some.
See, people nedded this. They needed to know.
Yeah. So I mean that sits. It tenderizes all day. It sits in there, and then we usually, I'll fry up a corn tortilla on the griddle with a little oil. Toss it in there. Maybe cut up some cabbage, some cilantro, some onions. Toss it on there, a little bit of sour cream. So I'm a taco guy. Man, I eat tacos like 4 times a week. So I gotta go with venison tacos, slow cooked, little spicy. That's mine. What about you, Byron?
Ooh, so I'm a sandwich guy, so I'm going to go a Philly cheesesteak with a venison backstrap. But you got to have all the fixin', get the good bread from the grocery store you got to pay pay more for, and you do it right.
Yeah, you can't do a Philly on cheap bread.
No. You got to build it from the base. Onions, peppers. I like jalapenos in there for a little kick, and then I make some fancy sauce at home that kind of is a mayo base. But yeah.
Dude,
that's my go-to venison best recipe.
That's good. Yes, that was a quick little off topic, but okay. Let's dive into one of these more hunting related topics. There was a question in there about water.
I like that one. Okay, yep, let's do water.
So water is and this is something that we can always dive deeper to on a longer segment, but just to touch base on this quick, water sources can be extremely deadly, especially if you are in a spot that is short of water or lacking a lot of water. Early season, I have personally killed deer over small little water sources, seeps in the ground that actually are spring fed, that fill up, that can be a gold mine to find. So especially on drought years, things are dry. I can think of a farm I hunt in particular where my early season is completely, how I hunt it is completely contingent upon the wet or dryness of the year, if the main creek is dried up or not, and, you know, I go from there. So, like, that's one of the first things I look at, is if that readily available water source is there, if there's still pockets, still puddles. If it's completely dried out, I know right where I'm going to go, and I'm going to get a crack at a good buck inside of a few days. Like, just hunting that nearest water source, that fresh water. So that can be deadly. And, you know, you got to think, I mean, whitetail's got to drink.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so, you know, that is a really good thing to key on.
I know Heath Cisco, who's on our staff, and he's talked to me. I was asking him, how can I better get inventory of bucks on in the summer on public land in the big woods? And he told me, if you know where seeps are, he said occasionally, you know, some of those creeks in the big woods will dry up, but a seep will still hold water. And so you can actually, you know, find the best trail going in and out of that seep and get a pretty good way to inventory your bucks.
And that's what I'm getting at with hunting too. Like, so that little, I don't know what did I call it? Not a seep, but I called it but that's what I was getting at. So little, like, you know, spring-fed
Springs.
pockets or whatever. Like, so you might have a creek, and this is good scouting too. Like, if you're popping around and if you find those little puddles of water, like, and it can be tiny. I'm talking like the one I'm talking about, and specifically, literally is probably only fills up to the amount of probably a coffee cup.
Oh wow, yeah, that's.
I mean, we're talking small. Like, this is literally in this little crack.
But it's consistent and it's always there.
You can, if you put a towel in there and soak it up, you'll watch it come. You'll watch 15, 20 minutes. It just fills right back up to that line and stays there. And I've literally seen deer come specifically to that spot, drink that water up, and leave, like, just to get that fresh little. I mean, it's cool. It's fresh water, so those can be huge. So and like you said, you're trying to narrow down a spot to put a camera on.
Mm-hmm.
That's an awesome freaking spot right there.
Yeah.
And an ambush to hunt too.
The only other time I can say I've seen water play an encounter, not kill a buck, but play an encounter, was actually during the rut when those bucks are moving so much. I have seen a buck drink from a pond occasionally and purposely stop at a creek crossing, grab some water, and obviously then he's on to the next probably doe bedding area, favorite cruising shelf, wherever he's off to.
Yep. They're ran down. They're wore out when they're running around. They got to get a drink sooner or later, and that's where too sometimes a lot of water. You know, and thinking about water in the other retrospect, like not them drinking it. Sometimes a lot of water can actually funnel deer into certain ways, certain pathways. I know that I've hunted farms that when they're flooded and there's a lot of water, like, them trails condense big time. Like, you know, I mean, and I know there's people who hunt, you know, heavily, you know, marshy areas where the deer are chomping through water. But when you're in egg country or whatever, and you get like these creeks flooding up over dikes, and them deer are taking them high spots, or at least for the most time, and you can see it. And that's a pretty good pinch to capitalize on, and just kind of in general. But even water in another sense, river systems and creek systems are awesome little travel corridors and runways for deer in the rut. So I think that's a good thing to take into account, like just even a dried up creek system. But I know that like the big rivers, the Mississippi, or even branches off of that, like during the rut, you get close to those bodies of water that run for long ways. It's perfect cruising territory for big bucks that you might not be homebody to your farm, you know, that might find their ways in. So
nice.
And we can get deeper into some water too at a later date. But I thought that was a good thing to touch base on, because I think sometimes people see some water and they're like, oh, well, do I really want to sit? Like, is this worth a sit? Definitely. I mean, scope that out. I mean, if there's some big track, like
there's always
pond,
there's always softer mud, so you can easier to read tracks.
Ponds are great, especially farm ponds. Like, just you can bet, man, them deer are coming through to that pond. Like I've
got a pond right out back that you
that's
get. That's
actually a very good point.
Boom.
I mean, so literally where I live, my house on a few acres, I have a pond in my backyard. The pond is no more than a half acre at most, maybe half acre at most. I get deer coming from the adjacent 800 acre piece with ease. Like they come out and they come off out of this big tract of timber, and there's a creek system that runs through that, but for some reason they come out and they like to drink in my pond. And I don't ever really hunt my home piece of ground, that little tiny, because it's just so small and it's hard to get around. But I mean, I put a camera there, and I have bucks coming out all year, coming out just to get a drink in that pond, and then they head out to the open egg or they go back in. So yeah, don't overlook that. Do a little scouting around that water, and don't be afraid to sit it, I would say, for sure.
Yeah.
Especially, in hot drought type climates. But
let's bang out one or two more here before we go to the...
So let's see here. Here's a good one. Best entry level film setup. So
boom.
That's a very easy one. I think we can both kind of being somebody who has filmed their hunts since the day they started hunting or has been filmed, and then Byron over here who does a lot of video production work and just media and films his hunts and all that. I think we got a pretty good handle on this. So
yeah, we do.
I mean, let's not overlook the obvious piece of equipment that will require virtually no investment for 90% of the people out there.
And that would be the cell phone.
Your cell phone. I mean, nowadays these cell phones are incredible. They take some awesome footage. Now you are not going to be able to get cinematic quality type pans and zoom in and like bokeh with this with the cell phone, but we're talking entry level.
Get your
film
feet wet.
Setup. See what it's like to be filming your setup. So now, along with the phone, you can toss it on to your bow. You can rig it like that, but we're gonna do a little camera unplug here.
Yeah.
But I mean, just having something that you can film yourself with, whether it's a screw-in step that you rig a little mount for your phone to clip on, the pocket arm. Now the introduction of that, I think, is gonna it opens up a lot of new coming filmers and a lot of self filmers now to have a piece of equipment that's super light. It's definitely a killer investment if you're looking at, I mean, it's got enough reach where you can kick it in back of you, you can get yourself drawn on a deer, you can actually, the one thing about having your phone and mounting it to like mounting it to your bow is that you can't really work it like you're filming. Yeah. Having an arm and having a camera set up, or even your phone on an arm, you can choose to get some cooler cinematic type shots. Mm-hmm. You can work the arm, move it, use it to actually film with, or set it back for a kill shot.
Yeah. I think the only, a few areas the phone really struggles is only deer footage out past, say, 35, 40 yards. You're not going to get nice, it's just not possible. But bow distance, get a guy used to bringing a camera arm, bringing a small tripod. You can do a lot, small external mic. It's just a limited investment too, because everyone has a cell phone these days, and the quality on them is really good. It's really easy to bring to the woods. That's not talked about enough for guys like, oh, I think I want to film. Well, to charge those batteries, to have the SD cards ready to go, to bring that camera in a small camera bag every day to the woods, it adds up, man. It wears on people.
Oh, it's a process. It definitely makes the hunting experience more of a grind, especially if you're out there constantly. It is very rewarding when you end up with that kill on film, or when you're just bullshitting with buddies and you're watching deer footage throughout the year, mm-hmm. or you're looking back at maybe a buck that skirted through the timber that you just hit record on and you can maybe go back and look and, oh man, I didn't realize he had a split too. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, he's bigger than I thought he was. And that's where it comes in handy to have a little bit better of a camera. But let's go to the next step up. So I would recommend, if you want to put forth the least amount of money, right? You want to do this on a budget. I would take your cell phone, get a nice OtterBox case for it that has a clip, and that clip we're actually working on something right now, a head for the camera, specifically for cell phones. It'll be a small little adapter, and you can clip your cell phone right on it, which we'll have details on that to come. But I would get a nice case for your phone, just in case you drop that thing or something like that. You want to be able to clip it onto the arm. And I would get yourself like a pocket arm or a small... I don't really recommend just getting a screw-in type thing, unless you want to just set it up and get one angle. But if you really want to start filming your hunts, you need to be able to work an arm. So I think the investment of that arm will be awesome. It'll get you going, and then you don't have to buy a camera. Step 2, I think, look into an affordable handy cam.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with a small handy cam. Fits in your bag nice.
Super small.
You find the price point out there for $200. Amazon has a couple clips. I think we should mention this for the cell phone guy. That will like clip your cell phone in place, and that will generally accept into what they call a fluid head, which is the piece that tilts and stuff that's on the end of those camera arms. But yeah, those are like anywhere about $15 on Amazon, maybe $10 for the cell phone clip. But yeah, small handy cam, definitely the great option. Push record, a lot of functions in auto. You don't have to worry about it. That's definitely the next step.
Yeah, and so you can get those from a couple $100 all the way up to even, if, $6, $7. They make them real expensive, but like there are some really nice video cameras for that $600 to $700 range too. Like if you're like, okay, I'm gonna invest some money in this, but I'm not gonna go crazy off the wall. Like it all depends what your budget is. Yeah. But entry level, like a $300 Sony or Canon or whatever you want, little handy cam that is super small, super compact. It has a great zoom range, and it also, I would recommend getting one with a mic port. Yes. Just in case, because when you get more into it, you're going to want better audio, and if you don't have something with a mic port, and definitely not get something that doesn't have just internal memory. Make sure it accepts an SD card, because there's some cheap handy cams out there that they only have a 32 gig internal memory. Yeah. And you can't put a SD card in. Like that's you're kind of limiting yourself. Because I bought one of those and it didn't have a mic just because it was so cheap. I'm like, but then I realized like, shit, it doesn't have a mic port. I can't put an SD card in it. Like, just make sure it can use an SD card. It has a mic port, so you can at least run a tiny little shotgun mic if you want to down the road. But that's where when you get into like the $600-$700 range, like some of those cameras like have some really awesome microphones built in, internal gimbals. Like let's say you kill that deer, or you shoot that deer and you're tracking. I know the AX53, the one that I had, has an internal gimbal, so like you hold that thing and it's got that like eye in there that levels it all and takes the shock out of
some
it.
Of the bounce,
and then obviously if you want to get, I don't even know if that'd be entry level. Like
the AX53 is that's higher end.
Yeah, that's a bump up.
Yeah, it produces.
Okay, so maybe I'm going a little out of there. So I think get yourself an arm if you want to get a more affordable arm. But if you're looking at,
and I'm a big fan of the small Joby tripods.
Yep, small Joby tripods are cool. Like I've actually, going back to the phone thing for entry level, I have a tiny Joby phone tripod. It has a little expanding clip on top. You can get those at Best Buy for $30. It's got the flexible arms. I actually ran my cell phone with that Joby head. I would sometimes wrap that Joby tripod around a limb if I wanted to just get a shot real quick. But I also took and I wrapped that thing around my camera arm and just had the self-facing camera on my phone. Yeah. It was pointing at me, and then I had my camera off the end. So you can do some cool shit with those Joby tripods.
Oh, yeah. And they pack in a bag, so if you're scouting, shed hunting, want to get some extra shots around the truck, you literally, rides it in your pack. You can pull it out, clip your cell phone in, get a couple of different shots, and then it's back in the pack, and you take it with you. What's not talked about enough in outdoor videography is you have to take this stuff to the woods. It has to be easy for you to use.
Yep. And another thing that you overthink, like, filming your hunts is one thing, but like when you start getting into that to trying to make like a little production, or it's more about the little things and about being able to, like you said, quickly grab that little tripod out, set it up, get a little shot of you walking in there. Like, and this is beyond, I guess, but anyway, those are some food for thought for entry level setups. I'd say short, get yourself, or to sum it up, start with your phone. maybe make the investment of an arm and start taking that out and start experiencing what it's like to set up that arm, set up your phone, film stuff, and then maybe the next step would be to get a handy cam.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're open to this world of like, oh man, I can zoom in. That deer's 200 yards away and I can see him right now. Like, that's awesome. For a while I didn't even use binocs because, I have my camera there. So like, and I used to have that Sony that I had an awesome zoom.
Yeah.
And I would just usually use that. It was always set up. I always had it. And I kept that in my pocket.
Yeah, when I do road scouting at home, I'm literally the driver and the guy trying to either glass or get footage. And it's like I can't glass and then pick up my camera because that deer may jump into the beans or lay down and he's gone. So I just literally take the camera because it can zoom better than my eye.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a good tip.
Yeah, so that's so that kind of that'll round that off, and we can, if you guys got any more specific questions and maybe even getting a little bit, I guess, to a higher level of filming and stuff like that, we can dive into that on a future episode too. But that was good to touch base on. Very good question. Should we hit one more?
Yeah, let's hit one more.
Let's see. What do we do?
One of those two. You pick.
Which one?
You pick. This is your podcast.
Okay. Okay. So let's go. So we had a couple questions about choosing properties, and I know, as far as these were more so guys that are looking into, okay, I want to get on bigger deer, and I'm looking to maybe either lease ground or go on to new public, or just, I guess if the way I took these questions and I summed them up is like, I picture these people sitting there kind of like, okay, the farm I've been hunting doesn't have what I want to kill. What's my first step when I have a couple potential pieces into looking like, which one do I go after? Like, that's kind of, that's kind of how I read the question. And I'm a big advocate of, oh, you hear that?
I don't know.
Well, sorry for the cow. Like I said, we're parked back on a back road right now. And we got some cows chirping, but or grunting. Anyway, so you might not have the deer you're looking for. Or you want to get on a better piece or whatever it is. The one thing I always do, and I'm a big advocate of this because I've done it in the past. Don't spread yourself too thin. Don't try and take on 6 new pieces, because it's just, and I've done it. Everybody does it. Sometimes you think like, okay, the more feelers I got out, like sometimes that's not the case. Like you think like, oh, for sales, well, the more time I put my advertisement out there and the more people I talk to, the more sales I'll get. Well, it's not really the same, I don't think, when it comes to. Now, if you're putting out feelers, like just to find decent properties and to dive into, but when you're looking at actually diving into a property to hunt it, I think taking that back and narrowing those 6 pieces down to 2 key pieces and doing some initial legwork and giving one, I guess, a little bit more attention, I think you're going to end up having a lot better success, because when you start bouncing and jumping and driving across town and trying to focus on too many places at once, you're not going to hunt any one piece right. Like that's my take on it, and that's my personal thing. What I've experienced like less success when I was constantly pinballing around from state to state looking at this. Now I look, especially when it comes to new pieces. If somebody comes up to me and says, Cody, I got a couple pieces in Alabama that we're going to look at, I'd be like, okay, all right, well, first of all, like, I'm thinking, they all have decent deer apparently, right? Well, I am, for one, going to start out by looking at, and this has got nothing to do with quality of deer, but it's got to do with access. And access is a big thing for me because, and I think it should be a big thing for more people, and I'm not talking about scaring deer, I'm talking about effort.
Okay.
When I look at a piece of property, I'm going to gauge it too by like, okay, it's all, to me, it's all a percentage thing. And like, okay, can I kill a big buck here? How hard is it going to be for me to kill a big buck here? How efficiently can I hunt this place without, I guess, messing it up and really like having to, screw it up too much? There's some piece of property that I've looked at that looked great, that I had good intel on deer, but were just very, very hard to access and very hard to just consistently hunt without beating that property down.
Yeah.
Now,
so can I ask this? When you say hard to access,
go
ahead.
Yeah, just elaborate on hard access.
Yeah, like, is that physically tough, or are you, the access is wrong for you?
I'm not, I don't, you know me, I don't shy away from anything physically tough. Like, whether I'm hiking 7 miles, 1 mile, 50 yards, that doesn't play, but think about it in a time aspect. So I take into all those accounts. I take into, okay, so tough access.
All right, well, small glitch, we're back. But you were talking, it's not a physical thing that you're worried about.
Definitely not a physical thing. When I talk about tough pieces as far as access goes, it's a combination of certain things. It's the time it's going to take me to get there if it's a long distance. It's walking through deer. It's entering a spot that I know all eyes are on me, that I can't get around certain areas to access for certain winds. There's a lot of different things that I look at one of the biggest things is, easiest thing for me is an example, right? So, okay, let's say we got a piece, and it takes me, I got to walk into it, and it's 5 miles long, and the best part is, back, and I have to take that time to walk that 5 miles. Like, well, okay, that's getting in there earlier, a lot of time put toward getting back there. Is my effort gonna be worth the reward? Like, if there's giant deer back there and it's manageable, and I can somewhat make that long walk, like get around everything, not mess anything up, or the movement to where I can get on a certain deer, or even efficiently scouting a place. Like, sometimes you have to think, like, if you're limited on time, if you have to hike 6 miles back somewhere just to scout it, like, do you have the time to do that, to find out what's going on, to then go back in and hunt it, to put the effort in there, to stay there back there,
even to go pull a trail camera?
Yeah,
there's an all-day affair right there.
When you're looking at a new piece, and then you have another piece that has the same caliber deer or the same acreage, amount of signs, same acreage, but you can access that in a quarter of the time, and you're just as likely to kill or get on a decent deer on that piece. Well, to me, it's a no-brainer. Like, why would I why would I burn myself out more when I have another piece that's better for me? Or, there's this big piece that I scouted years ago. It was like a coliseum. Awesome ground, awesome deer. The only way I can enter this property, because it was landlocked, was through the bottom, and I was like a sitting duck. All these...
Just a big bowl around you.
All these ridges, and these deer would watch me come in, and it was a lot tougher. I knew it was going to be a lot tougher just to hunt that, because there was no way I could get around them. It was just the way the land laid. The winds, like, it was set up for more of a predominant, like, when you look at the area and you look at what you're going to want to hunt, like, you know what your predominant winds are in the area, and if the property's set up, like, to get behind deer coming back to bed, like, where you need east winds all the time, like, it probably it's gonna be more of a pain in the ass to hunt. Like, so that goes into access for me, just time. I like to be able to access different. I like to know that I can come into a property from any way if I need to, because, like, if I go put boots on the ground and see that property, and you always want to look at them. Even on an aerial, you're not going to make a judgment call until you. No, okay. No.
It's good to know.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent,
to an extent.
If somebody shows me a 50-acre piece that's in a block of 3,000 that I have to hike through, and there's one easement, like, that's a lot of effort. Now, it's always worth going and walking there and checking it out, because, like, if you walk there once and you find the greatest situation in the world, then it's worth that walk every time. But, like, if you go in there and it's like, I don't know. Okay. Well, I'm going a different piece for sure. So, I would say, the 2 points are, look at your access. I always look roads. Can I park on a road? Can I get to a corner of the property easily? Do I have to worry about neighbors? Do I have to, worry about kicking my deer? Are the neighbors, like, if there's a lot of hunting pressure too, and you only have one access route and it's through a major populated area, you're going to push those deer off. Now, I don't think you pushing those deer off is going to be really detrimental to you, but it could be if you're pushing them to neighbors hunting. So, like, that's a little, and that goes into another question we had about small parcels. Yeah. Small parcels are a pain sometimes.
Well, I think if we pivot this thought here, like, I think a lot of the listeners are probably like, okay, I live in destination X, and I can get access to this 50, this 20, and maybe we can even throw like a 15, like smaller type pieces. But there's a couple in my area I'd like to knock on. What would you look at, and we'll call it under the 100-acre type pieces, close to home, where everything's kind of equal, mix of timber and ag, Is there something that stands out to you in looking at parcels that size?
Yeah, it's going to be the access. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to see where, like, especially like you said, if it's mixed ag, timber, can I get to these spots that where I think these deer will be feeding after looking at the aerial, or just where the land sits. For one, real quick, just like you mentioned that too, even where the property is in proximity to your home and how quick you can get there, huge. Those are huge things. If you can, now, you don't want to pick a property that's next door just because it's next door when there's big bucks 20 minutes away. Mm-hmm. So, you have to take that into account. But at the same time, if you know you're never going to be able to get 20 minutes away or an hour away, you might want to start looking closer to home. But so access on those pieces. So if all these pieces are in relative, I guess this looking the same, it's okay. Can I get to the edges of these food sources, to glass, to hunt, to scope out these deer without tipping the deer off and I'm getting there? Can I access these pieces? Can I get around the back side of these pieces where these deer are eating to get or to find these bedding areas, or how easy is it to access? It's just a lot of it comes down to access and looking at the map. There's been some farms that I really wanted to hunt it in the past, but they were very deep onto properties that were hunted that I could not get easement to walk through. Like they didn't want people hunting property next to them, so they're like, "Oh no, you could definitely not come through my property. No, you cannot park on this road." That stuff is just tough. And when you're hunting, when you're going into a season, a long season, and you're especially with guys who are just looking for a good deer. If you're on a different caliber too, and you're looking for a deer that's 185 inches, or you're looking for a 200-inch deer, well, then that trumps everything, because you need to find the piece that 200-inch deer's on. But when you're a guy, which I think this question is about that guy. This guy just wants to get on good deer, and he wants to find a new piece that he can hunt and go kill a buck. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm talking about. So I'm talking about increase your odds. Make it easier for yourself to get in there and get amongst and hunt these deer consistently and learn that property and be able to manipulate it to kill a deer, rather than put yourself in a position where you are fucking cashed when you get out to that stand. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, if you gotta do it, you gotta do it. But when you have a few pieces and you can pick and choose, and you also have to, it's one of those things where, like, you're looking at the end of the race too. You're not. Everybody starts out gun-ho, but can you consistently do it? Can you consistently hunt those deer efficiently without burning yourself out? And I don't know if that makes sense, but
no, I think some key summarizing thoughts there are can you get to it often or frequently? Is the caliber of buck there you're after? And then...
And that's the thing, too, with a small parcel. Like, you start talking about these smaller parcels. I always like a little bit bigger of a part. If you have access limitations combined with a small parcel, those are two negatives now.
Yeah, well, a small parcel in general, there's going to be less room to just generally work with.
I've hunted 40-acre pieces, and even smaller. I've hunted 5-acre pieces, and they were awesome pieces of ground, but, like... You couldn't go, like, I had never had luck hunting them in the evening. Yeah. I'd go blow them out, and they'd be elsewhere. Mm-hmm. Now, in the morning, if they're out on the neighbor's property and you're glassing and you got this 5-acre transition and you could sneak in there before, well, then, boom, that's your fucking piece, But, so it's, so size versus that. Like, if you're looking at a 300-acre piece of property, well... You can access through that without kicking deer, I think, off of it pretty easily.
Yeah, you can make some moves. You can do some loops to get into places, little button hooks, stuff like that helps.
So a lot of that, I think I look at that first and foremost, along with, outside the area. Does the area hold good deer? Is there good genetics? Do I know anything about the area? Can I get any leads on these pieces of property? Like, those are all great things too. But just looking at a map, if somebody showed me 6 parcels and I couldn't go walk them, I would first look at like, okay, do I got a good, a good blend? Is there some good food in the area? Do I think like, can I surmise like, where I think would this place be holding deer? If they all are, yeah, okay, let's go size versus access then, and just see how easy it's going to be for me to access every piece of that property if I need to.
That's
and that goes the same for me when I was looking at going down to a bunch of walk-on ground in Kansas, thousands of acres. Well, the first thing I did was like, okay, I know there's thousands of acres down here. The last thing I'm going to do is go out there and try and pound thousands of acres. I am going to look, and I may overlook the best spot on the map, but I'm going to tell myself like, okay, let's focus on this 600. This 600 looks good to me. I can access this from every direction. This is what I'm going to scout and pound first. And I'll know. I'll get there. I'll start hunting you'll know.
Yeah.
If you need to bail. But don't start spreading your thin and looking at it. Oh yeah, I'm hunting a 10,000 acre piece of walk-on in North Dakota. I don't think that's smart. I think like divide and conquer. Pull a section of that from the group. Like, are you going to run at a group of 6 guys and freaking try and take them all on at once, or are you going to try and pick one of them off at the same time or at a time, that you can handle? So it's a lot more things to juggle, I think, and I've done it, man. I've been like, oh man, I got this camera over here, this over here. I got the scout here. There's not enough time in the day to hunt like you should. Period. So now instead of having one piece, throw 6 pieces on there. Mm-hmm. And you got to be smart about it.
No, I would agree. I have been the guy that was hunting 7 pieces of public ground in 6 counties, and to be honest, I'm much more 3 core pieces with a couple fringes that I kind of just keep tabs on, not necessarily diving all in on, but I've got a core of 3, and I know those pieces forward and backwards because that's my focus. And yeah, I definitely have taken that as a huge part of just hanging around you and learning from you.
Yeah, and it's like you can't, and this is not saying that you can't have cameras on multiple farms and at least keep an eye on them, but when it comes down to expanding into new ground that you know nothing about, and you're looking at taking on 3 new states and 2 new pieces in each state, like you're just setting yourself up for. And it could work out great, but
yeah. And the hunting public does that, but they don't have jobs. That's a huge. That's a huge part of that puzzle piece is how much time do you have to hunting? Because I would imagine most of our listeners, working guys, maybe have families. We're trying to give this advice for a guy looking to kill a good one.
Yeah, and looking for a new, and that's the same thing. And this question. Actually, I think one of them was focused specifically on lease ground, which is kind of where I like, public is one thing, and if you're taking on a giant piece of ground, that's one, because you can always move, you can go to a different place. But if you're looking to make the investment of a lease, you're going to want to be able to access that, and you're going to want to be able to not booger that up constantly if it's a small piece when you're going in and out, and if that's your main. Because a lot of these guys, there's a lot of people out there that set aside money all year. I do it. There's a lot of people. That is a priority of theirs. Some people buy a bunch of shit. Some people set aside money and they want to carve out a piece of property that they don't have to compete with anybody, and they can manage and hopefully grow big deer and take their kids there and whatever it may be. If you're looking for that lease, I think it's very important that you don't, you take those things into account. If this is a piece you are going to be hunting and you can't just run over to something else and you're putting all your eggs in one basket, why would you want to do it on a piece that is so extremely hard to access?
Yeah.
Unless it was going to produce you these giant deer. So that's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's where that's why it even with whitetail questions, it gets so tough to answer broadly. Like if a guy said to me like, hey, I want giant deer and I want to manage them and I want, what should I look for? I might answer that a little differently than a guy that's like, hey, I'm just looking to be able to hunt a good caliber deer every year and
see a couple deer every hunt and have a good time.
Yep, exactly. Versus, hey man, I'm a public land hunter only. How do I find a new piece of public? You're not married to public. You can always bail, but you put the money into a lease, you're gonna hunt that sucker. And you don't want to be
investment there.
Exactly. So, so that kind of. I hope that helps. That helps a little bit for guys looking to expand into new pieces and and put some new hunting property in their arsenal. But
well, dude, I think
I think we had a good little segment here.
Yeah, I think a couple good answers and more to come. And these little Coffee with Cody episodes always a good time.
Yeah.
From the mobile recording studio, never know where that's going to be.
Yep. We should start disclosing the locations too. We can make a game out of it.
Yeah, and then I can sell your pins, on the black market for extra cash. Sure.
Anybody looking for some good pins? I got some good ones.
Yeah.
I think so be sure to tune into the next one. The next one's going to be a full out D series podcast with the old man, and we'll dive into some deep topics, some tactic topics. I know a question I keep getting too is the stand setup efficiency. So
might be a video.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely do videos on that too, but that's something we will touch base on the next episode. Is my go-to setup. We'll touch base on Byron's go-to setup, and we'll also do Dad's, because they're different. Yeah. They're all a little different, and we all have our own little tweaks. Prime example, cam straps. Like me and you have two completely different takes on cam straps. Same thing with Dad. Like in packing stuff up, and there's so that'll be something that we touch base on this next episode, and how those little idiosyncrasies that we all have make us more efficient in the setup, and how I get my setup my setup time down so low. I mean, I think a lot of things that sparked that question was like, the 6-minute stand setup or whatever, or even shorter. And a lot of things go into that. So, and there's so we'll touch base on that in the next episode, and some other cool stuff.
Yeah. Any other final updates? Closing her out?
Yeah, I think, dude, we'll close her out. We'll thanks for listening. If you haven't, go check out the YouTube channel, Lone Wolf Custom Gear. There's a lot of cool content on there. A lot of awesome whitetail addictions videos. I think
your dad's video is about 2 weeks out.
Yep. So his is gonna drop pretty soon. I know a lot of you guys have been waiting for that, but and if you don't already, go follow us on social media, on Instagram and Facebook, and we put out a lot of good stuff there. At least we try to. Mobile Hunters United, a forum we created on Facebook, open for anybody. Come talk hunting. Tips, suggestions, tactics, share your whitetail season. It's a great place to be with like-minded guys and the mobile hunting community.
Yeah. I think that's a good place to close her out, man.
Yep. Go work for it.
All right, we'll see ya.